Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. So I would like to open this with a brief introduction of Mr. Parth. I hope I'll be able to do justice to the credentials that he has. So Mr. Parth, as you already know that he is working with Munich Re for the past more than 7 years now. He's also a fellow from IAI and IFOA, and he holds a esteemed SERA certification, and he also has a master degree in statistics and informatics from IIT Mumbai. Mr. Parth's academic credentials complements an exceptional ability to derive insights from complex data, particularly in mortality analysis. Over the course of a notable career, in addition to leading the pricing department, Mr. Parth founded the biometrics department at Munich Re India branch. Mr. Parth has conducted in-depth experience analysis to identify trends and patterns in mortality drivers, enabling precise pricing strategies and robust monitoring framework. With that, I would now open it for Mr. Parth to walk us through his insightful presentations.
Thank you. Thank you. Am I audible, everyone? Right? Okay, everyone's had a good coffee break. Everyone's awake? Okay. So let's talk about today's session. So today we're going to be talking about mortality, specifically how mortality has evolved over the last 10 years, specifically for the protection line of business. And that's because it's one of the most important key focus areas for the Indian insurance industry right now. Now let's get some of the technical aspects, or rather the caveats, out of the way first. So when we're talking about mortality experience, we're going to be talking about A by E's or A over E's. I think the actual professionals in the room are quite familiar with what A by E's are. Now, what are the parameters of the study that we're going to be presenting today? Also, bear in mind that for confidentiality purposes, all the graphical representations are merely for representative and directional purposes. However, they accurately reflect the findings that we have had by analyzing the experience. So number one, we are looking at this on a calendar year basis. Obviously, it's the Global Conference of Actuaries, while in the Indian market, we tend to look at things on a financial year basis. For this platform, it's more on a calendar year basis. And because 2024 quarter 4 data is yet to be processed and come through, that's why we're sticking to experience that is developed up till 2023. Now, we're looking at, when we say A by E, the E here, the expected basis is ILM 1214. Although there is a more recent table that has been analyzed and put out by the institute, which is ILM 1517, the most recent regulator-backed and most commonly used table continues to be ILM 1214. More from a technical perspective, ILM 1214 is a decently good fit for the experience that we see. So if you want to standardize the experience by age, ILM 1214, the shape of ILM 1214 compares quite well when you compare it with the age-wise mortality experience. We'll talk a bit more about how we have dealt with COVID, which is the elephant in the room, because how can you analyze experience over the last several years without addressing COVID? So we'll take a look at that as well. I'll draw your attention to the policies that have gone into the study. More importantly, you can see the rate of growth, the n-fold rate of growth of protection business, especially between 2013 to 2019, where there has been almost a 6-fold or 7-fold growth. You may see that that growth has sort of slowed and the number of policies have reduced in the recent years. Now, this potentially could be because the premium rates for the end customers were increased in the last few years. And maybe through this presentation, we may see why that may have been necessary action by the insurance companies. So now let's simply look at the A by E's by each calendar year. Okay? Okay, gradually progressing. Oh, okay, something. Okay, I think we know what that is, right? 2020-21 obviously has had issues with COVID. So let's first do the easiest thing we can. There are quite a lot of claims identified as COVID, right? I say COVID identified claims. Let's exclude those from our analysis. And maybe let's rescale this graph a bit. Yeah, seems a lot better. But 2021 still stands out as an aberration. Now, as you may be aware, and what we have found in our analysis is, even the claims that were not tagged as COVID, during a specific period, that is the Delta wave period, quarter 2 of 2021, so April, May, June of 2021, there was a spike in deaths, even of claims not tagged as COVID, which has again come down. Now, clearly, this is a phenomenon linked to COVID. So even though it may not have been tagged as a COVID death, clearly we feel that these are COVID influenced or COVID affected deaths. So how do we fix that problem? We're basically going to exclude the 3 months of exposure and claims from that period. So 2021 is essentially 9 months of experience. With that adjustment, this is fairly free of the impact of COVID as much as was possible. So what do we see here when we look at the trend from left to right? You can see that it's getting a bit heavier over time, right? Now a lay person who may have heard of mortality improvement may say, "Oh, I thought there was a concept of mortality improvement. It should ideally get better every year." But as we all know, you have to standardize a lot more to see, standardize a portfolio a lot more to see the mortality improvement. So, okay, if you're talking about standardization, we've already standardized this by age. We're also only looking at the experience of male lives. Now, I will come to why we're only looking at the experience of male lives, and that's because 85 to 90% of the data is male lives. So when we want to analyze mortality, and the way we're going to be doing it is multivariate, you have to standardize for as many variables as possible. And we'll address that a bit later. But there's medically underwritten business here. There's, other than medically underwritten, there's smoker lives, non-smoker lives. Can we remove some of that noise? Well, what if we just look at medical non-smoker business greater than or equal to 50 lakhs, which constitutes 75% of the portfolio of protection business by sum at risk. The picture is a bit more worrisome here, where the rate of increase of mortality seems to be a lot more. So what we're trying to do in this session is understand what are the variables driving this increase in mortality experience, whether we can ascertain it, whether we can understand and decode it. Now, since I've mentioned underwriting, smoker, gender, for completeness, let's just take a quick look at the business mix by gender. So historically, 90% of the lives have been male lives. Recently, it has been growing to 85% lives male, 15% lives female. So the kind of multivariate analysis we want to do, female lives don't yet have enough credible data. All I can say is on a univariate level, similar findings are found in the female lives as well. There's not yet credible data to break it down into multiple variables. And obviously we know that there are experience differentials between male and female lives, and they are broadly consistent over time. Let's take a look at underwriting now. Now, even on an underwriting scenario, why we are choosing medical non-smoker is because by sum at risk, 70 to 75% of the experience and the data comes from medical non-smoker. You do see an aberration, which is specifically during 2020 and 2021 due to lockdowns, because medical underwriting may not have been possible. There was a surge of other than medically underwritten business. But that aberration aside, the business is broadly coming from medically underwritten business. So what are we standardized on? Standardized on age, standardized on gender, standardized on underwriting and smoker status. There's another thing we're going to standardize on, and that is when you look at mortality experience, you have to look at, especially if it's medically underwritten, you have to look at ultimate mortality experience. So what do I mean by ultimate experience? For the purposes of this presentation, we're going to say the first 2 years, and this is based on observations which we will show ahead, the first 2 years of experience tends to be a lot lighter than years 3, 4, 5 onwards. So let's call it 3+ is what we're going to look at. Now, while this presentation is mostly going to be focused on medical non-smoker, hard to ignore a very important finding is that the differentials between medical smoker and medical non-smoker, as you can see from this graph, are getting wider and wider. The smoker differentials we used to see in past experience, they seem to be getting higher and higher. So a lot more differential between mortality between med smoker and med non-smoker. Anyways, having standardized all of this, let's get into the meat of things. And let's understand what is the underlying profile. So when I say underlying profile, I'll maybe quote a dialogue from Jolly LLB. It's in Hindi, so apologies to the foreign audience. कौन है ये लोग? कहाँ से आते हैं ये लोग? Right? That's the question we need to answer. Who are these lives and where do they come from? Where do they come from is the first question we're going to answer, and that is location. One of the most important variable that we have found to have an impact or explanatory variable for mortality has been location. Now, we have had so many conversations since morning, right, about insurance for all. We need to penetrate the tier 2, tier 3 cities. So many lives do not even have insurance coverage right now or do not have appropriate insurance coverage right now. Well, I think if you look at the first row of numbers here, we should be quite proud of the fact that since 2013, there have been almost 500 unique locations. Now, when we say cities, it's loosely cities because for cities you need minimum 1 lakh population and there are those requirements. But cities, towns, there have even been villages. So who says we're not insuring there? But there is a problem here. If you look at row number 2, 60% of the business historically has just come from top 10 cities. Now, what do I mean by top 10? We mean top 10 cities by population. These will typically be your metro cities, your capital cities in most of the states. So you can think Mumbai, Bangalore, all of these locations. And just for clarification, so everyone understands the numbers correctly, the top 10 list does not change every year. It is a static top 10 list. So you're looking at the business mix in the same 10 cities across the years. So even though there is business written in a lot of places, 60% of it used to just come from top 10 cities. This is now changing. Now we're at a situation where more than 60% business is coming from other than top 10 cities, and only 37-40% business is coming from top 10. Why am I going on about this? What's so important about this? And that is because the experience is vastly different. But this is not a new revelation. So what do we look at in these top 10 cities, right? Affordability of healthcare, access to healthcare, and more importantly, awareness. All the 3 A's are ticked in these top 10 cities. You have the facilities available, you have people who can afford it, and you have people who are aware about it. Why I say this is because there may be as many tertiary care hospitals opened in, let's say, faraway locations. If the awareness, if the cultural aspect of utilizing the medical resources is not there, that can have a clear impact on mortality. So here, what do we see? Without broadly just looking at this, there's a significant differential in the mortality of top 10 and other cities. Can we look at this over time, right? So interestingly, the mortality of the top 10 cities has not materially changed over the years. Now let me explain what I mean by these numbers here. 2013-14, and this is for all slides going forward, 13-14 basically means the business that was written, right? Policies, underwritten policies issued in 2013-14, policies issued in 15-18, and policies issued in 19-21. The reason you don't see 22 and 23 is because obviously we're looking at ultimate experience. Policies issued in 22-23 only have the first 2 years of experience, that's select experience. So top 10 cities are fine. They're more or less stable. What's happening with those other cities? Every cohort, the experience is getting heavier and heavier. So we need to dig a bit deeper into that. Now 10 and others is a very broad categorization. We need to maybe break this others down a bit further. So let's adopt the same strategy. We rank top 10 cities by population. What if we take the latest available population statistics and break these cities down into categories? So we're looking at 4 categories here. Top 10 cities like we saw, 11 to 100, 101 to 300, and greater than 300 cities. Clearly, we can see that the business is flowing and funneling from the top 10 cities slowly into greater than 100 cities. The 11 to 100 has been fairly stable over time, but there is a lot of growth happening in the 100 to 300 and more recently greater than 300 cities. Okay, but why this bifurcation? The experience also should be different. Otherwise, there's no point of breaking it into so many categories. Is the experience really different? Well, let's look at the business that was issued earlier in 2013-14. I don't see much of a difference there. Top 10 is light, we already showed that. The other locations look fairly similar. What's the problem? Okay, let's go 1 year ahead. Oh, okay. 11 to 100 is heavier. 101 to 300 is even heavier. Yeah, but fine. Got it? Maybe why don't we just do greater than 100, right? Because I can say greater than 300 cities doesn't look so bad. I can maybe just club it with 101 to 300. Well, the more recent cohort suggests that even greater than 300 cities have a heavier mortality experience. So let's connect these numbers with these numbers. While volumes are low, while volumes are in control and you are not selling it at an aggressive rate, let's say, while there is some form of selection happening. So there was business being written in greater than 300 cities, even in the past, but perhaps it was only catering to a select segment. Perhaps it was not reflective of the entire, it's still not reflective of the entire population, but not reflective of the inherent mortalities of that region. As business has grown, the mortality has caught up. And this is something we need to be quite mindful of. Okay, got the point? Makes sense. We are growing in greater than 100 cities, hence mortality experience is increasing. That's what we saw in the first slide. But this is not the only variable. This is not the only parameter. Occupation, right? Now, some caveat about occupation here. While location is directly derived from the KYC information, mostly underwriting is not differentiated by location. When it comes to occupation, most of this information is declared information, right? And there may also be some underwriting criteria associated with occupation, which may mean that the declarations may be here and there. So this analysis is based on the quality of information that is right now available, that is right now collected. Also, when I show you the numbers, the analysis is purely based on salaried and non-salaried. Now, salaried is a huge category. People working in offices can be salaried. It's possible that people who are working on households and earning wages can also come into the salaried category. It is a broad categorization. And there should and needs to be a lot more deeper analysis into what kind of lives are coming into these segments. Regardless, whatever the data looks like, I think we all know that there is a clear mortality differential between salaried and non-salaried. Why I say we seem to all know this is because there was a clear gradual growth of the non-salaried segment for several years. However, more recently it seems that it has been taken back. Now, one hypothesis could be that because insurers were quite aware of the mortality experience of non-salaried lives, there has been a more focus to target the salaried lives so that the rates being charged are commensurate with the risks that you are writing. It is quite possible. Okay, this is a standalone variable, occupation. Is there a correlation between location and occupation? Okay, clearly the experience is getting heavier even within the salaried profile as you move across the cities. But this is the interesting part. Same thing with non-salaried, but look at the differentials. Clearly, the differential between the salaried and non-salaried life living in the top 10 cities, possibly because of other variables like affordability of healthcare, income profiles, whatever it may be, the differential is not so high. As you move across the locations, the differential between salaried and self-employed keeps getting wider. Okay? Fair enough. We've analyzed occupation, we've analyzed location. There's another variable we should look at, income. Now, more importantly, when we look at annual income, we can't just look at what was 10 lakhs 10 years ago and what is 10 lakhs now. You have to allow for some kind of inflation. There has to be some kind of adjustment for that. So for the purposes of this analysis, it is basically based on CPI, which lack of other indexation, it's a fair enough sort of metric to use. And we see what we expect. This is, I think, quite natural. As income increases, mortality experience gets better. Obviously, because you may have a better lifestyle, better affordability, better socioeconomic profile, this is quite natural. And as we can see, business was in fact earlier it was very much concentrated to lives with a indexed income of greater than equal to 25 lakhs. Almost 50% of the business was coming from there. Whereas over time, we are moving, insurance is now being bought by a more diverse group of people, right? Now, can we compare income and location? Or other income and occupation in this slide? Yes. Here also, you will see a very interesting pattern like we saw with income and occupation and location. As the income increases, the gap between salaried and non-salaried seems to be getting narrower. Again, similar to what we saw before, as let's say your income level reaches a high enough sort of number, there the differential is keeping on decreasing. Okay, fair enough. We've looked at pairs of variables. Let's go nuts. Let's look at all three variables together. So for simplicity, we're breaking the income into less than 10 lakhs and greater than 10 lakhs, still indexed income. We've got the 4 categories of locations and you've got salaried and non-salaried. So from left to right is essentially how the mortality is sort of increasing. This is sort of your best and the creamy sector, and the non-salaried income less than 10 lakhs is representing the highest mortality. So can we say that if I know or if I am able to classify my current portfolio or my past portfolio into these categories, I should be able to work back the mortality experience, see how much business you're writing in each of these categories and compare it with the mortality experience we see. The first number is what the proportions of business looked like in 2013, 14, 15, in that period of time. And the number below in black is where the proportions are right now. Now this tells a very interesting story. Almost 60% of the business just came from the creamy profiles. Now, where has the movement been? So if I can summarize what we're looking at over here, the movement has been from top 100 cities, salaried lives greater than 10 lakhs. This is where the business mostly used to be. This has now moved to salaried lives, less than 10 lakhs income as well, and greater than 100 cities. This is where the shift has occurred. You will notice that in the non-salaried segments, the increase has not been so significant. This may have been a conscious effort looking at the mortality experience. So let's be clear, what change in mortality we are seeing right now is simply moving from high income salaried in top locations to lower income salaries in higher locations. The impact of moving to non-salaried, lower income, all of that is still not particularly heavy in the current experience. And these are the things we need to be really mindful of when we're analyzing where our future and current mortality levels are going to be. Okay, so we've looked at location, occupation, income. Why have we not looked at the most commonly used variable as a proxy for socioeconomic profile? Typically, we use sum assured, right? Sum assured is a good proxy for socioeconomic profile. Well, okay, let's look at sum assured. Oh, wow. It's all moving towards higher sums assured. So there used to be a lot more of 50 lakhs sum assured or 5 million. And a lot of that is now moving towards 25 lakhs or less than 50 lakhs is almost now reducing. It's almost gone now. Most of it is in 50 lakhs to 1 CR. And there's a greater than equal to 2 CR segment, which is also growing quite a bit. That's good. Higher sum assured, better socioeconomic profile. Why aren't we seeing improvement in mortality? Well, I think I've already ruined the plot. You know why. Because it's not about the sum assured, it's about the business mix within these sums assured. So the mistake we should not make is, if I am trying to assess what is going to be the mortality experience of a 1 crore sum assured policy now, typically what one would do is look at the mortality experience of a 1 crore policy 5 to 6 years ago. Why 5 to 6 years ago? Because you can't look at business you sold 2-3 years ago. Ultimate experience has not developed. You'll have to look at ultimate experience of older policies. The problem with that is the business mix you may have right now looks like this, and the business mix you had back then looks like this. What we should be looking at is what was the experience of a similar business mix. Now you'll be surprised that this didn't come out of thin air. This is actually the business mix of the 50 lakh sum assured in the past. So what's happening? If the profile of what used to be 50 lakhs is moving to 1 crore, and that's the exact same thing which we can expect could happen for what used to be 1 crore, those same profiles may now come into greater than equal to 2 CR. So it's not about the sum assured, it's about the underlying profiles. Okay, fair, got your point, but what about channel? I'll sell it through web. We know, we've seen before, past, web sales experience is usually the best. And it made sense back in the day. See, in, let's say 10, 15 years ago, the access to the internet, the affordability of the internet, and how conversant the population was with online usage was very different. You knew for a fact that if I'm selling a policy to web sales, I'm automatically targeting a better customer profile. Agents could get to areas where maybe technology could not. And that is why we have consistently seen that experience from the online channels is actually better. Whoa. I don't see much difference in the more recent cohorts. And I think we can all guess why. If you look at the underlying profile, let's pick a variable, let's say location is what I want to look at. We can clearly see that in the older cohorts, web sales used to mostly come from top 10 cities and very little was coming from greater than 100 cities. Even in the next cohort, banca and agency increased business in greater than 100 cities, whereas for web sales, it was still skewed towards the 1 to 100 cities. It wasn't going so much in the greater than 100 cities. Most recent cohort, very little discernible difference. So if the profiles are going to align, the experience is also going to align. So we need to be very careful. We cannot rely only on sum assured and channel, which are incidental variables. We need to be looking at the underlying profiles. And more importantly, so if I can summarize what we've looked at, look at the ultimate experience. I think I'm forgetting something. I mentioned ultimate experience as 3+, right? So let's say first 2 years are light and then the third year onwards. Okay, let's think about this. Why did I say 3+? Well, we have the numbers. You can clearly see the first 2 years of experience is significantly lighter. And then 3+ is a lot heavier. And you can see this over time. That trend is visible. But one may say, I see a pattern here. The differential between the first 2 years and 3+ was more than 50% in the older cohorts. Now, I don't see so much of a difference. It's only 30%. It's still there, but it seems to be reducing. And what about the more recent cohorts? Does that mean the select effect is going away? Well, we don't think so. Let's look at it this way. When I say 3+ for a 2013-14 portfolio, what does 3+ have? It has year 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with credible claims, 9 and 10 with some reducing credibility, but you have 10 years of experience. When you look at 17-18, your 3+ basically has 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, dwindling claims, not too credible. So the question that we actually have to ask ourselves is 3+ even ultimate? Well, maybe let's look at this portfolio. I'm almost out of time, but I'll finish it off if you guys will bear with me. So let's look at 2013-14 and see how the experience looks like. So 1 and 2 is light, sure. But so is 3, 4, 5. It seems to be increasing till 6 plus. Now, why 6 plus? Because again, here it's 6, 7, 8. You don't have much beyond 9 and 10. I don't know about you, but this keeps me up at night. This is scary. Because we are currently writing policies with an average term of 40 years. This used to be 25 to 30 a couple of years ago. Now average policy terms are 40 years. And we don't particularly have data beyond year 9 or 10 from the protection business itself. So are we saying that 6 plus is ultimate? It's hard to say. We'll have to get year 12, 13, 14 data to know whether 6 plus was indeed ultimate. We know that there are markets out there where your first 10 years is a select period, right? And then the ultimate kicks in. The answer to this is we don't know yet. And I think this is something we are all going to learn together, right? So this requires a lot of close monitoring for us as an industry as to where is the ultimate experience. And why this matters more for protection business is because it's medically underwritten. That's where there is likely to be a lot more selection, whereas a lot of other lines of businesses are mostly not medically underwritten. So you may not see such a high selection period. Right? So if I can summarize my key points, there is a significant shift in socioeconomic profile. You have to monitor how it is going. Unless there is close monitoring of location, occupation, income, these key drivers, using historical data alone based on sum assured and channel may not be the right way to look at your future experience. And there is a lot more to be dug into when we talk about occupation. A lot more better and granular data needs to be captured and analyzed so we all know what we have retained on our books, right? The ultimate experience, as I said, yet to emerge. And one last point, which I think is very important for all of us to remember. The protection business data doesn't particularly have much data beyond, say, 65 years of age, much credible data beyond 65 years of age. Even the industry table does not have significant credible data, the industry table I'm talking about. It doesn't have significant credible data beyond, say, 75 years of age. Our policy terms are 85, 100, maybe whole life. I think this is also something we are going to learn over time. So as long as we're monitoring the business that we're writing, I think we'll all be the wiser for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parth, for walking us through this insightful presentation and what data can tell us. So we'll, I know we are on time, but we'll probably have just one question from the audience. No questions?
Yeah, so did you also look at education as one variable?
Yes, no. Yeah, okay. So, good question. It is whether we've looked at education as a rating factor. Now, here's an interesting story. Yes, education used to show a differential. However, the data right now in the more recent times comprises mostly of graduate and above. The reason being this is not always checked. So if someone is able to declare themselves as graduate and above, that is what is flowing into the data. So there is not much left to analyze if everyone in the data is coming as graduate and above. Differentials, if and when maybe it used to be declared properly, there was some differential observed, but it's not relevant anymore because everyone is coming as a graduate. And this is important when underwriting is differentiated by the variable we're analyzing. If there is an incentive for people to say something and it makes it easier to get insurance, that is something we have to be careful about.
Just have one more question. By the way, my huge compliments. I think a very, very good exercise. So you said city as one of the variable, and then you made correlations with income and occupation.
Yes.
Did you also see what would have happened if you would have taken, let's say, income or occupation as, and then what would have happened?
Yes, that's a very good question. So the way this order has also been derived is through multivariate analysis. So the order of importance of variables has been arrived at in this fashion.